actually said he wanted to see a roll walker. He just said that. Pray for everyone in the county. Name my name.
Yeah. Keep her busy.
Yeah, you can find yourself on the island.
I don't think you heard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just because we're waiting a minute anyway, so it's like just to be safe. I think there's copies of the agenda.
Did you not get one?
No, they were taking pictures.
Here, you can take this.
No, those people were taking pictures. There's copies of the agenda if you wanted some by the door. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just a hard copy.
She said she needed to pray. But we can start and pray, probably.
Yeah.
Oh. Busy.
Yeah. Better than that. So, I don't have a hard time keeping up with what I'm supposed to do. Right?
Then God made Celsius. You have those?
No. Yeah, I have. I mean, I know what you're talking about.
Let's go.
Is that what you like, Celsius?
I know. It's just a necessity in my life. So it's just like portable, anything.
I can't really eat it because it has to be soda with caffeine. Yeah, if I do energy drinks, it destroys my body.
Yeah, I think.
Way too much jitters.
I feel like it evens me out that I do have ADHD.
Yeah.
And my boss even gets like, shit.
That's, I broke that habit.
Where do you live?
Corey. Towards the top of the Me too. It's a great little place for me.
Porterville. You know where that Porterville church is?
Yeah.
It's just kind of catty corner from me.
I was there the other night. Stayed.
Who? In a Bishopbrook or something? Which chapel do you guys meet in? You like that?
So you There's a few more rooms and they say that it's a state center. It's full of old songs.
They need to build another shop. Tell them to build one up in front.
Yeah, there used to be one. Now it's the park.
Yep, I remember I had to go speaking on my mission.
Oh, yeah.
It scared the crap out of me. Ted London scared the crap out of me.
Is that Tom's Day?
Made me nervous.
Huh.
I don't know why. He's a nice person.
Tom's.
Most Londons are great people. You related to him? I'm sure you're related to someone.
Well, closest relatives. I live right next to my sister.
Who's your sister?
Christy Johnson. Yeah, they bought prefab there, like 2 acres. I subdivided one of the acres. One of the acres off of theirs. It's a nice little spot. We like it.
So how old were you when you moved there?
I think my first was 9 years ago. I grew up close to the park. Sold that a few months ago from GPS accounts. So, 233, the first house. Then 9 years.
Jeremy, we live. Welcome to the Morgan County Planning Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, August 28th, 2025. Apologies, we're starting a couple minutes late. It's 6:37. And we are going to start off tonight with a prayer. And then after that, please arise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we bow before thee once again in this planning and zoning commission meeting. We're grateful, as always, for what we have. We recognize the people of this great valley. We would invite your spirit as we discuss the business of the people tonight, that we may be able to be guided in correct decisions. We're grateful for the opportunity to live here and to serve here. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I motion.
Member King, do we have a second? Second, Member Telford, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Any conflicts of interest on any agenda items tonight? Seeing none, we'll move into public comment. If you are here to speak about the legislative item on the agenda tonight, it will have its own public hearing. We will move into that public hearing. If there's anything else you would like to speak with us about, you can come forward and state your name for the record. Seeing no public comments, Jeremy, you're up.
Madam Chair, so it was pointed out to me that in the packet, it's initially listed as a legislative item, but then later on, the attorney guidance given was administrative. There's been some confusion over this. What originally the county attorney's office had advised was that this is an amendment to the development agreement, so it is legislative. It's my understanding that they wanted to invoke one of the subsections in our code, and I can't remember, is it 426?
155.464, amending the conceptual development.
That it's just an amendment to the conceptual development plan. However, that amending that portion of the development plan, actually that development amendment that they want to amend incorporates the concept plan into it. It was also what they relied on in the concept plan to get the lot sizes that they're currently using. And in that concept plan, it says that road shall become a public road. And so the way legal is viewing it is this is an amendment to the development agreement and that it is legislative. So if there's any other questions regarding that,
Thank you.
be happy to answer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Application number 25.037 is the Rollins Ranch Development Agreement, Fifth Amendment. The applicant, Tyrese, representing the Durbano Group, is in the audience tonight, Madam Chair, and the property owner is Fernwood LC. The location of the project is approximately 6113 North Hidden Valley Road. Date of the application in July 18 of this year, with the current zoning having R120 towards the southern portion of the property, with the overwhelming majority being rural residential RR1. The whole parcel involving about 250 acres. And the request tonight, Madam Chair, is to amend the development agreement to revise road alignment for improved safety and to accommodate existing infrastructure. Staff wishes to point out that there are two conversations about this property kind of running together. Not tonight, though. There's a preliminary plat application that has come to this commission recently, and so tonight is not talking anything about utilities, grading or drainage, review of lot sizes or easements or anything like that. That's all reviewed under the scope of the preliminary plat application. For tonight, staff recommends that the commission just look at the merit of changing the position of the road, and just keeping the discussion to that. Otherwise, staff has provided a review and recommends approval of this amendment to the development agreement. The planning office has received, I believe, one phone call and one letter that was sent by a couple of the neighbors. And I believe a copy of that was sent to the commission tonight. I do now, in anticipation of the preliminary plat approval coming back to this commission at some point, the staff has been waiting on a review and letter from the fire protection district, and I have that letter and I'd like to read at least portions of it. I quote, "The Mountain Green Fire Protection District has completed its review of the Ponderosa subdivision site plans dated June 13, 2025. Based on the submitted documentation and evaluations, the subdivision is approved. It has been determined that the road alignment adjustments do not affect this approval. Furthermore, the Ponderosa subdivision has demonstrated that it now has an adequate and reliable water supply, as confirmed by the 2021 International Fire Code and the water model dated July 8th from Epic Engineering. Please note that a water flow test must be performed once the infrastructure is in place prior to any homes being built. This office must witness the water flow test. If any significant deviation from the water model is observed, it will cause added delays in construction until the water flow corrections are made. Sincerely, Golden Barrett." Close quote. Otherwise, staff is happy to answer any questions the commission has tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I do have one comment. In the packet, the development agreement shown still says fourth. It refers to an Exhibit A. We don't have an Exhibit A in our packet.
So, Exhibit A, Rollins Ranch Development Agreement recorded. That's the one you're looking at.
I understand this is the Fifth Amendment. But
I had that confusion too. So what they're doing, there was the fourth one, they're trying to amend just the Fourth Amendment. So that's how it's worded at the top of it. So we could call it the Fifth Amendment, but I believe how they titled it, they're amending the Fourth Amendment.
Which amends the development agreement, so.
That is correct.
But again, Exhibit A was referred to here, we do not have. I don't know if it's just mislabeled.
Here's an attached exhibit A.
That's also for staff.
Is it possible to include that letter you just read in the minutes? Or,
Yeah, this
like-
letter came in only days ago.
Okay, because it's not in our packet.
Yeah, and since I read it in.
Any more questions for staff before we move into public hearing? Do I have a motion to move into public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by member Sessions,
Second.
second by member King. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. We are now in public hearing to come and speak about this item. Please come forward, state your name for the record. Thank you.
My name is Dana Bauer. I sent an email to all of you this week. I don't know if that's the letter you guys are all referring to, but my major concern is with code 155.426. Sorry, I don't speak that language. I don't know if I said that right, but concerning the double frontage lots. That's not something that is typically seen in Morgan County that I'm aware of. I kind of drove around to see if that's a normal thing, and it seems kind of silly that we would make an exception to put a double front, not even just a double frontage lot, but once that third road is added to that property, it becomes then a triple frontage lot at that point, right? And that seems unfair to that homeowner, not to mention unsightly, not common, and I don't know why we would make that exception to that rule. Also, I understand your position earlier when you were speaking about how we're not going to discuss any drainage or easements, but I don't know how you cannot discuss that when it impacts someone's home and their livelihood directly, especially on the easements. I mean, that home has been in place for 20 years now. And if you put a new road there that has easements, how can you not consider that in the debate on this road being put in? That's going to greatly impact this house. Not to mention the home across the street from it that was not there when they bought the lot. It was not told to them that this road would be right in front of them, right? I currently live right in front of Horseshoe Hollow Lane. When I purchased my lot, I knew that I was facing a road, right? I knew that my kids' bedrooms were going to be built and I was going to have car lights coming in. I knew that I was going to face noise, even from, you know, everyone around me. I knew that. But the house that's going to be put directly in front of this road, they didn't know that when they purchased. That's not fair to the existing homeowners, and I would hope that you guys would consider that in addition to everything that you got in my letter. So thank you very much.
My name is George Pedersen, and I've lived in Rollins Ranch area for the last 8 years, and I live on Ranch Boulevard as well. And I have some concerns. My first concern was the way the wording was placed on this particular amendment. It never once addresses Ranch Boulevard. It says it's located at North Hidden Valley Road. Hidden Valley Road comes to an intersection. It's a four-way intersection, and there's homes on 1, 2, 3 sides of that. And the road would continue. In fact, it does continue north right into the property that's going to be developed. But to take and make a jaunt of about 100 to 120 feet to the left and then put another road in there would affect whoever's building, just like Sister Bauer said, would affect them. But the other problem is it's going to change the flow of traffic if they develop that area. Now, I understand why the owner of the property doesn't want his road to continue on off of Hidden Valley Road. It could go right straight in through Hidden Valley Road and continue right into that property that they want to develop. But in doing that, all of the traffic coming in sort of goes around the perimeter of of our subdivision. But if he puts that road in, it's going to change things, because it's going to make all the flow of traffic go down Ranch Boulevard. Not only the flow of the homes being built, but also the heavy equipment that's going in there to build those homes. And we just finished our subdivision, and they resurfaced the road about 1.5 years ago. I'm not sure exactly what the date was, but you know, they'd had all that heavy equipment in there when they were building all these homes, and it tore up our road. Now this is going to happen again if that Ranch Boulevard is the approval on that land. But I understand the owner not wanting it to go through his land, because right now, if it goes along Hidden Valley Road, it'll go past his home and several of his family homes. And I don't think he wants that. But anyway, that's one thing. The other thing is the way that this amendment was worded. I don't think you're going to have a very good turnout of people, because it never mentions Hidden Valley Road. It never mentions Ranch Boulevard. It won't be Hidden Valley Road that the road he's putting in. It'll be off of Ranch Boulevard. So that's another big concern of mine. So that's probably one of the reasons why there's not very many people here tonight. I think the best option for everybody would be for him to seek coming in another way into his property. I know he won't develop his own road that he's got. At least I don't think he will. But that's a possibility. And we're not in favor of him developing his subdivision, but I know he doesn't want to develop it and go past his places. I realize that. Then the other question, if it does develop, are the owners of Ranch Boulevard going to continue to pay the dues and all of the stuff for the maintenance of the roads and everything in there if there's another subdivision that's linked up to them? I don't think so, the way it's set up. That's another reason why they need to come in somewhere else. Because when we bought our home, we had to pay a fee to join the association up there, and we pay monthly fees. But all of a sudden they're going to develop a big subdivision above us. They're going to use our roads, our parks, our land, and yeah, they're not going to pay anything. I don't agree with that. So that's another concern that I have. I don't know. I don't want to cause problems, but it just really concerns me, you know. And that road is like 25-mile-an-hour road right now. And a lot of kids are on that road, going up and down every day on their little scooters. Some of them are doing it illegally, but you know, they're there, and we have to watch for them. But if you add another 25 homes off of Ranch Boulevard, you're adding a big burden I think it's extremely poor planning to allow that secondary road to be put in. It's only 100 and so feet. I measured it. I counted it off. And it just shifts the traffic a different way. Anyway, those are my complaints, and I hope that I didn't offend anybody. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert Bennell, live on 4401 West Ranch Boulevard, and I'm the owner of that aforementioned property that stands to be right in the middle of a three-way intersection if this new road gets put in. I think that's the thing that's really devastating and frustrating for my family and I after putting all of our savings into this home. Is I bought the land in 2017, and it was pretty obvious at that point that there was going to be development across the street. We've enjoyed that open field for a while, but I understand private property rights and the ability to develop. But there was clearly a four-way intersection built at the end of the road where Hidden Valley Road meets Rollins Ranch Boulevard. So it made all the sense in the world to me that would eventually be the egress and ingress to the development. This road, as has been mentioned, puts my neighbor Paul Clayton surrounded by roads on three sides. It's like 60 feet from an existing road into the property. It'll have all that traffic literally just emptying into our bedrooms, with all the headlights and such and noise and whatnot, which again, we're prepared for the development, but the location of it's just going to be kind of devastating for our home value and our quality of life. There were a few things in this amendment that seemed a little disingenuous. We were kind of this safety aspect of the curvature of the roads and whatnot. This is an open field. We can curve the road in any way it needs to be safe. There are twists and turns all through Rollins Ranch. There are twists and turns in the rest of the proposed development that are a shorter radius than what's being developed, or what was originally there on that eastern proposal for the road, closer to the Durbanos. So, we're just we're sad about it. We're frustrated. We're hopeful that y'all can advocate for the community and just have a little bit of common sense when it comes to putting roads in, so we don't have road, home. It's just madness. So the drainage stuff, I know we're not talking about tonight. I'll just mention that as a civil engineer undergrad, this drainage floods, and it was pretty obvious with how much water was going into Paul Clayton's house last year. I am not thrilled about having a bunch of impervious surfaces in the drainage with the outlet to that drainage pointed directly at my front yard. And I'm literally the only house that's going to have this intersection pointed right into our bedrooms. So with that, just if there's any avenue for this to be reconsidered or for this road to be redirected to the common sense location where it was meant to be at that four-way intersection, we would be very grateful. Thank you.
Somebody's a lot taller than me. My name is Lynn Pedersen. I live on Rollins Ranch Boulevard. And all my concerns basically have been addressed. One thing that, and by the way, while I'm here, please, thank you. You put in the crosswalk in front of Lee's grocery store. So thank you, or whatever you need to know that we appreciate that. Safety is such a big issue. That Rollins Ranch Boulevard, people are speeding down that. It's the big long road, and they're speeding down it. The children are all out, as has been mentioned, on their bikes and on their scooters. Safety should be the first consideration, regardless of anything else. safety for our children, for our families, that should be your first priority. And by putting in this, like they've described, this extra road, all it's going to do is create more havoc. My personal opinion, and this is my own personal, is that you shouldn't be going through with heavy equipment, all of the things that are going to happen, and going through an established subdivision to get to the very back of that subdivision to develop the property. If you want to develop the property, you should have another access. Because even if you say don't put the road where it's right now proposed, where you've got the amendment proposing, even if you go into the Hidden Valley Road, you're still creating havoc. You're still creating a decreased safety environment and creating just a total mess as far as all of the things that are going on. I thought of something today, and I mean, our job is to control the growth. And I know that that's something you guys are very aware of and whatever, but right now we feel that it's reversed. We feel that the growth is controlling us, that we don't have any say. Our opinions don't matter. And all I can do is ask you to at least listen to the concerns, to be able to say, are there valid concerns that we need to address? So, I don't know how to say this really nicely, so I'll just do whatever, but this particular individual or whatever, if this doesn't pass, if you don't approve the road, there's going to be a lawsuit, I'll bet you. Because that's the solution that happens, seems like every time that they don't get their way. One, you shouldn't make decisions based on whether you're going to get sued or not. But you do need to realize that that's the history, and that's anyone who's had any dealings will tell you the same thing. So I'm just saying that please don't make your decision based on fear of something as well. So that's really mine. My big things are the safety, the controlled growth, and that it's just going to, like I say, it's going to tear up our roads and do everything else, and it's in the back of a subdivision. I know he's tried to buy Browning property. They turned him down. I know that he's tried to come up Powderhorn. They turned him down. Now, last resort, wants to come in on Rollins Ranch Boulevard. So, thank you very much.
Paul Clayton, been mentioned a couple times here before. So don't want to reiterate what's already been spoken. I've also written to the Planning Commission, and I appreciate the responses I've gotten. I've walked the property line with Mr. Durbano, my neighbor, along that east fence line adjacent to my property. He's differences, just so that maybe others in the room are aware, shifted the road away from my property approximately 10 feet. That's how this new plan is written if you look at the map. My initial concern in two parts were that by having triple frontage on my property, it affects how I can use my property, because now I can't put any structures, has to be 30 feet off the road. And that was a concern of mine, that it suddenly affects my property rights with the road there. Now, I don't know ultimately how that will all play out. As to the drainage into my property from there, I've been assured that would be addressed in all of the development. Again, haven't seen anything in writing, which I hope to see at some point. As to the safety, I don't know. My understanding is that in Morgan County, we can't have anything such as speed bumps or some way to manage traffic speed or ensure people stop at the bottom of the road or things like that. But I would maybe ask for some consideration or an exception in some way to address the speeding issue. Ultimately, I'm not super familiar as to what happens once this legislative item is voted upon, and maybe the commission can clarify that for me. If there's a yes vote, what does that mean moving forward? Is that a for sure said and done? Is there still amendments to be had, investigation to be had, or is it kind of over? So hoping maybe the commission could address that for me. Ultimately, just want to express my thanks to you. When this was brought up in the spring, I expressed my concerns at that time, and there have been, I feel, good reconsideration on behalf of the Planning Commission and taking time and looking into these issues for me. So just want to express my thanks for doing due diligence and continuing to do so. So thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Moss, 4589 Ranch Boulevard. So I would be one affected by the increase in traffic. And I admit I'm behind the 8 ball here. I've been out of town. I don't remember receiving notice, a letter of this. I saw a little Facebook post about this commission meeting. So I've missed a lot of what's already gone on. So in thinking about this, my biggest concern was about the increase in traffic. Like has been said, 25 homes, that's going to be another 100, 2 people in each home, a teenager and a parent. In and out, that's 100 more times past my home. But my biggest concern is about the egress accessibility for people getting in and out. I back up next to the home that burned down a couple years ago, and getting fire trucks into our neighborhood through one entrance, because that entrance through the Rome School parking lot can become very congested. So like Mr. Clayton said, I would love to slow things down and take a look. I know money can buy a road in that would facilitate the development, because, we're so fortunate to live up here. Other people should be able to also. But in, like we said, just a mindful planning way. So thank you. I am against this new phase amendment.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to comment. My name is Ryan Gibson. I am General Counsel for Browning, the neighboring property owner here. And I'm hopeful that my comment, it's very specific, and I'm hoping doesn't exceed the scope of this hearing. But where it is specific language included in the submission packet, I believe that it's relevant. Our concern is with, if you go to page 10 of the submission packet, the Exhibit C proposed Rollins Ranch subdivision plat, there is language in this that directs an arrow to our property line with the Rollins Ranch development. And it's right here kind of in this southeast corner where it says connections to future development, where there's a road that comes to a blunt stop right there. My concern is with, if you follow the left arrow back, there's language here that says public right-of-way connections to Mountain Green Trail system. So my comment for the record, and this would go both to the commission as well as to the developer with respect to that language, is first, wondering where that language came from, right? So this was news to me on behalf of Browning with respect to some type of public right-of-way concerning some unknown Mountain Green Trail system. So that's the first concern there, is where this language came from. We would love to have that omitted. Based on the nature of our business, we do have concerns with any kind of public right-of-way going through our property, especially for something like a trail system where we have active shooting ranges, we have multiple reservoirs for fire suppression and agriculture and other uses. So obviously an interest in making sure that out of public safety, we don't have any kind of trespassers or any other users on the property. So for the record, I'd just like to make that comment that we would prefer to see that language in the amended concept plan removed. So with that, that's all I have. Thank you.
I'm Daniel Hansen. I live on Horseshoe Hollow Lane, 6134 North, Horseshoe Hollow Lane, next to Paul Clayton. Doesn't affect the change, the amendment doesn't affect my property as much as it does Paul's. But my major concern is the safety of having now a busier road on the one side of the property, and then now potentially a busy road that's just right off the corner of the property. We have a downhill slope coming off of this new development, and you're making this amendment would make the road even more straight, which would encourage or allow people to speed, where if we stuck with the original location of the intersection, it would incur a small bend where you can't have a speed bump like Paul mentioned. That bend would encourage people to slow down as they travel through that area. So I'm not for the amendment. I think that having the location of the road in the originally planned location at a four-way intersection would be a much safer location to have an intersection, not in a random spot in the middle of the block. So my concern is primarily a safety concern.
Hi, my name's Josh Jenks. I also live on Horseshoe Hollow Lane next to Dan Hansen and Paul Clayton. My biggest concern falls under the Utah Supreme Court versus Logan, versus West Land Equities versus Logan. Just offering a significant threat to public health, safety, and welfare, also mentioned in the packet. My concern is with the new west alignment, we'll have a higher traffic flow into the neighborhood, which causes higher speeds as well. There's more cars, more speeds. The additional, the larger radius curves may improve sight distance, for drivers, but it also encourages faster travel speeds, particularly in residential areas. With children, hundreds of children in the neighborhood, it offers at higher speeds, offers a reduced reaction time for children running in and out of the street, which they do all the time. I have three small children. Given this, we need to take those that are most vulnerable into consideration, which are children and pedestrians. And so I do think that this falls under the significant risk to public safety, given the location of the proposed street. The other, I liked it better when it was where it was originally planned, offering a four-way stop near the end of the subdivision versus in the middle of a busy area with lots of children. So given the larger curve, we could see larger traffic, larger speeds in the area. And my biggest concern is child safety, number one. Then emergency access, concentrating traffic could also slow emergency response times during peak hours, further elevating risk. And I think it was 2 weeks earlier, you denied the Thurston rezone due to the similar issue. And in conclusion, I just think that we need to deny the amendment based on the effect of threat to public health and safety, especially to the children.
This is Dana Bauer again. I didn't use my full 3 minutes, and as my neighbors are sitting here talking, I just thought of a story that happened today to my 4-year-old daughter. Like I said, we live right on facing Horseshoe Lane, so we're literally 2 houses from the proposed street change. My daughter and actually the developer's grandson, were playing on their bikes, and they know to look for these intersections, right? They've been taught in school, like I'm on the Mountain Green Elementary PTSO. We teach about street safety, and they're learning about 4-way street intersections, right? But when you put yourself in the shoes of a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, yes, the parents are watching, but they're going faster than we can keep them contained, right? Let's just be honest. They're toddlers, right? And so when they are having to deal with street upon street upon street, they're not going to understand it in a way that we can as adults. And so if we can make this as foolproof for our toddlers as possible, that's going to benefit the children. And that should be the top priority. So I just wanted to bookend my thoughts and finalize the 3 minutes. Thanks.
Seeing no additional public comment, do I have a motion to close public hearing?
Motion to close public comment.
Motion by member Watt. Second by member Telford. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Do you want to have discussion, maybe give the applicant some time to speak if they would like to?
My name is Tyrese with the Graveno Group. We are the applicant. Definitely hear everybody's complaints and how they feel about things and want to respect those. And I think as we were going through this, one of the comments from our engineer is it'd actually be safer for us to shift the road, because as you come in off that road, the slope is so steep that you have to do a 190-degree radius. So any cars that are parked on make it hard for visibility as they come down. They can't see. So kids coming out back and forth would actually make it difficult for people coming down that road to see other people. So if you switch the road to the other side, then you have a 190-foot radius in the beginning, but then it goes to 500, meaning it's basically just a straight shot. So it's actually, from the engineer's perspective, it's actually more problematic for children and cars, because you go around and so you can't see coming around the corner. So that was one of the main considerations for the move. I definitely want to say that I understand. I don't live in your community, but we appreciate thoughts. Our thought was the same, is to make it so we don't have an issue with, kids coming down this road and being hit because you can't see around the corners. I do have, if you guys have any questions for me for that, but that was our main reason for applying for this change.
I have one question. You talked about your engineer. Was that a traffic engineer or just?
Horrocks. The engineer was from Horrocks.
Was it a traffic engineer that
Not
said
a traffic, a civil engineer.
Have you had a traffic study done?
Not a traffic study.
Any more questions for the applicant?
Question on the plat map, we're just struggling to know where the property starts and stops in terms of where Mr. Clayton's land is, just to the east of where his land is. Is all of that on the line?
Yes. Yeah, and there was an agreement made with Mr. Clayton where we could give a portion of that land for him, so it spaces from his house and he would have more room, and the drainage and everything has been addressed. It's been spilled, so we can send those plans over to Holidays.
Yeah, Jeremy, do we have that drainage? Have we received that? Okay.
And I want to stay focused on the roads, but I just want to let you know that has been addressed, because I know that's a concern.
So I've got a question. Going back to the safety question, we've talked a lot about slopes, and the original was steeper versus the new one, which is significantly less slope, or are we talking like 12% going down to
11% or 10%? What are we talking here?
The slope is the same until you get up about 50 feet into the subdivision. Then you have to turn left because then the slope becomes really steep. And so you have to turn it left. And so that makes kind of like an S curve, as you can see on that, which would make it difficult to see around cars that are parked on the side of the road, kids coming down, cutting across back and forth. So it's that S curve because you're coming up on that slope where the other one is more of a flat and then straight up. So you're not hitting a big radius is what the engineer's concerned about.
But we don't know what those slope percentage differences are. The
Well,
delta
he
there.
didn't give me the slope percentages as far as when it hits the radius.
Yeah.
He just says it's a 190 versus 150 foot radius.
Okay, that's the radius of the curve, not
Right.
the vertical curve.
Right, but that's why they had to switch it. That's why it originally has to go to the left and then back and forth.
So it's my understanding it's not a less sloped road. You're just saying the slope isn't in a corner. It's still the same slope. It's not. The road itself
Right,
is not a different grade.
right.
So my question would be, you're identifying this as an optimal change to the previous plan, and you're outlining changes, safety being one. Why were these not identified in the original plan? Why is this changing now?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, this development agreement was done many moons before I got here, so.
Sure. I got you.
And, you know, partly is as you move through a development, it's hard to think of everything.
It's a question for Jeremy. Mr. Clayton had mentioned that some of those property rights will be restricted. Has that been, is that a credible, thought or feedback? Has our staff reviewed that? Will it restrict his rights?
You're talking about the triple frontage?
Yep.
It'll be, I don't know exactly if you can consider it a triple frontage lot. I'd rely on Josh to answer that. But they've given more property on the east end of Mr. Clayton's property boundary, so that property boundary will eventually move. And so if you were to come forward and consider an application for, let's say, an accessory structure on the east end of his property, it's more amenable now than it was even a month ago, 2 months ago when we first started talking about this.
Okay, thank you.
I also have a quick question for Jeremy. I guess I assume all the feeder roads for this are county roads currently up to code?
Yes.
Okay, so that would actually be different than what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. That's a different situation. Okay.
Any more questions for the applicant? Okay, have a seat.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and address, there was a comment brought forward about just the process of this being a legislative item. So the way it works is we are appointed, we're not elected, we're not truly a legislative body. So we'll make a recommendation tonight, we'll have a vote. This will then go to the county commission. This is not an item that we have the final say on. They will be the approving or denying body on this. That being said, there is a process as well called a referendum. There's a lot involved with that when it happens. And that will also be publicly noticed as well, and you guys will be made aware of that. Our crew is awesome, especially Judy. She can set up and show you guys how you can get notices on this. So if you do want to see when this goes forward, is it on the schedule, Jeremy, for the next county commission meeting after tonight? Do we have a date on this? Do we know when this will?
The second meeting in September it's just a target though. It depends.
The
on-
target, okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so you guys keep posted on that. We are not an approving body on this, so.
I have some comments. This appears to be a self-inflicted problem. A pump house was put where the proposed road on the concept plan was supposed to go. The concept was amended in 2015, and in 2017 that pump house was put in, or it shows up on Google in 2017. So within 2 years, they kind of ignored their own concept plan and plopped that pump house there. So that's why they're trying to move the road, and that's why it changes the curve of the road. And since it's kind of like self-inflicted, I don't think it's appropriate that the solution should adversely affect the neighbors, which it apparently is with the headlights to the house directly across Ranch Road, as well as the Clayton house being triple frontage. A traffic study was not done, but yet the applicant says that the existing alignment is unsafe. I think a traffic engineer would have to determine that, because you can mitigate some of the impacts by traffic signage, such as, well, obviously there'll be a stop sign. You can put no parking signs, lower speed limit to mitigate that curve. I think that's my concern, that it is self-inflicted. And so the pump house could be moved if they really wanted to put the road back where the original concept says the direction it was supposed to go. So I'm kind of more leaning toward just leaving it as is and letting the developer figure out how he can solve his own problem.
So it was interesting to me, just, the wordplay, it says request for a minor amendment change. But in looking at the stuff, I thought this seems a little more complicated, so I went up there. I went up and I took a look this afternoon up there. I tried to look at it from two perspectives: the developer's perspective, and as a homeowner. I've built a few homes in my life, and in the process of building homes, I go and I look at what's being done, and I look at the plats, and I see what's going to go on around me, and what's going to affect me. What do things look like? I'm glad that the developer is on the same plan with you with safety, but let me also say, having a lot of years in government in these areas, safety is built into our process as we develop, and there has always been an expectation there would be more lots, there will be more houses, there will be more streets. What I looked at it is this change, this perspective. And I looked at the pump issue. Yeah, I agree with Member Sessions that that had an impact, and it had nothing to do with the homeowners. It had to do with the development process. Increased traffic is going to happen. The thing to me is, in looking at that, is making this change is making it in the middle of the game. And that change is a negative impact to most of the homeowners. Now, our view, we're to take this and compartmentalize it into this specific request. But I will also say, as my colleagues have heard me say before, I have a very hard time not looking at second and third order effects of these kinds of a change. I think there's an issue of fairness here, and I'm not sure this is fair.
Question for Jeremy. I know that this is not decided at this moment, so I recognize this is not what we're talking about. But can you just clarify, maybe for myself and the audience, let's say this does go forward, our code does not allow double frontage. Would they have to have approval from the county commission, because that's what our code requires? At the subdivision phase. Thank you.
More like if it's going to be allowed, the county commission has to allow it.
Any more? I liked where the road was. I said I liked where the road was. Any more discussion?
Ready for a motion then?
I'm at peace.
I move to recommend denial to the county commission for an amendment to the Rollins Ranch subdivision development agreement due to the following findings. That the change in the alignment of the road would adversely affect the neighbors. That any safety concerns with the existing intersection can be mitigated with traffic control signage. That the errant placement of the pump house was self-inflicted, and it's feasible for the developer to leave the road as shown on the current concept plan. And then one more question for the attorney.
Yes.
What about Browning's concern? They want, it's the C1.
The text removed.
They want the amendment, even though it wasn't agenda to deal with that part of the development agreement.
So I was confused which concept plan,
The old one.
the C1, and that isn't the current one. That is not the one that was attached to the fourth amendment that they're amending. And so you guys don't have I don't see it in the packet, the one that they're really amending. And the one that states that has the language regarding that road where it originally was, and the language that states that the crosshatched area will be public roadway constructed to county road standards upon development of any future lots or phases. And currently, it's just a private driveway. So, but yeah, there's a different concept plan, and I don't know if that's, C1 doesn't apply anymore is what I'm saying. It was replaced.
Okay, thank you. So I guess that's it.
I have a motion by member Sessions. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by member Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Any business or staff questions? I guess for Janet, do we need to make sure for the record that we get the right, per the Browning text, do we need to put the right map in the packet for the minutes?
I think we need to investigate that
Okay.
a little bit more.
Okay.
And maybe they want to give me a call and we can take a closer look at it and see where we're at and see if we need to, there's something we got to fix there.
I think that's just a comment on that. That's important because the Mountain Green Trail System is a big topic that's elevating, right? And I think there's an expectation that if it lands on a developer's plat map, that somehow that's real, and that's marketing, right? So just to comment that way.
They're very controversial at times.
Seeing no more business and staff questions, do I have a motion to approve the August 14th, 2025 Planning Commission minutes?
I motion.
Motion
Second.
member King, second member Watt, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Member Sessions, second. Member Watt, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous.